The Olivet Discourse runs from chapter 24 to the end of chapter 25, and it gets its name from the place where Jesus delivered this teaching. His disciples are following him through the Kidron Valley and up to the Mount of Olives, to their nightly resting place in Bethany. And as they're walking out, Jesus tells the disciples that the entire temple will one day be torn down. Naturally, the disciples begin asking Jesus a series of questions about that event and about the end of this age and the start of the kingdom. Matthew 24:3. As he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" Then, in Luke's account of this conversation, we found an additional question, Luke 21:7. And they questioned him, saying, "Teacher, when therefore will these things happen? And what will be the sign when these things are about to take place?" These were the questions that the disciples presented to Jesus. Number 1, when will the temple destruction happen? 1a, what are the signs of the temple's coming destruction? 2, what will be the sign of your coming? 3, what will be the signs of the end of the age? Then Jesus answers an additional question that the disciples didn't think to ask, which was, what will not be the signs of the end of the age? Secondly, Jesus doesn't answer these questions in the same order that they are asked of him. Specifically, he answers them in the order of 4, 3, 1, 1a, and 2. Let's move ahead with the answer that Jesus gave as he said to them, "See to it that no one misleads you." Matthew 24:5 and 6. "For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and will mislead many. You will be hearing of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not frightened, for those things must take place, but that is not yet the end." So the first false sign will be that some will be fooled by the false messiahs. But Jesus says, don't believe them. When he does come back, we can't miss him, because as we will learn later, he will bring us with him. Also, is it not interesting that you rarely ever see people claiming to be Muhammad or Confucius or Buddha returned? Because Satan knows who the real God is, so he doesn't bother counterfeiting the others because they're meaningless. But there will be signs that the end is coming, and Jesus begins to give us those signs in verse 7, starting with the signs of the end of the age. God establishes ages in the timeline of history to accomplish his purposes in creation. Ages have beginning points and ending points, and according to the book of Daniel, our current age began in 605 BC. At that time, Babylon attacked Jerusalem, and the nation of Israel lost its security in the land as a penalty for perverse idolatry. The prophet Daniel says this age will continue through 4 major world-dominating empires, and Israel will not be allowed to dwell securely in their land again until the current age ends and the next begins. Jesus calls this age the age of the Gentiles, and Daniel tells us it will end. Now Jesus begins to tell us what signs will announce that this current age is coming to its end. Matthew 24:7 says, "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and in various places there will be famines and earthquakes." The understanding Jesus' day was that the world wars would be the sign of the end of the age. This type of war was unprecedented in all human history until the 20th century, when world wars first began to happen. Not long after World War I, along came II. That war was larger and worse than the earlier war, involving 95% of the world's nations. Like birth pangs would predict, it fits the pattern of birth pangs, increasing in severity. Now we know why Jesus specifically ruled out wars in his earlier answer. He didn't want us mistaking ordinary war for the unique world wars that would mark the end. When the end of the age approaches, famines won't just happen once in a while. They will become common. Today, there are indications that the famine is growing in severity and frequency and impacting more people than ever before. Even some industrialized nations have begun to experience food shortages for various reasons. As we move further toward the end, this sign will only increase. Finally, Jesus says, look for earthquakes to increase. And since measuring earthquakes is a science, it's easy to track the fulfillment of this sign. A search at the USGS website reveals trends in earthquakes in the U.S. and worldwide over the past century or more. The average number of high-intensity earthquakes per decade in the prior century was 110 and remained consistent from decade to decade. But in the first decade of the 21st century, the number increases to over 150. And in the second decade of this century, we've already recorded 165. Luke 21:11b says, and in various places, plagues and famines, and there will be terrors and great signs from heaven. Luke reports that Jesus also mentioned plagues in various places. A plague is the spread of disease over a wide area, otherwise known as an epidemic or a pandemic. Jesus said these would begin to happen in various places, and various places in the Bible means around the world. A worldwide spread of disease by itself isn't very meaningful, but in combination with the other signs, it is very telling. World wars, famine, plagues, and earthquakes are signs that we're near the end of this age, and all these have been increasing in the past century. As these things kick off and disrupt our world, everyone longs to go back to the life we knew before. But the Christian knows his or her Bible and realizes this is the new normal, and there's no going back. Once the signs of the end of the age begin, there is no turning back and no stopping until the age ends and the new age comes. We're on a one-way trip to Jesus' return. So take heart in the chaos, because we know that we don't have much longer to wait. And this is what we've been waiting for. The signs repeat themselves over and over. But as they repeat, they will get stronger, and the more severe the damage will become. As the pains on earth increase and the end approaches, so does Christ's return and the start of the kingdom age.